were talking about this idea, this question of, will things get back to normal? Whatever was normal, what would normal look like? So I'm looking forward to having this conversation today.
Yeah, me too.
And for those of you that were here yesterday, a big thank you again to Carrie Smith and her colleague. Gosh, I'm spacing.
Yeah.
What was
Darren.
his? Darren, yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name.
Schwartz.
That's right, Schwartz. They were kind enough to join us. He was from New York. Of course, Carrie's in LA, but kind enough to join us and talk about some of the contract and legal issues, which are big and evolving and changing in light of the crisis that we're all going through. So if you did not get to see that, it is viewable via live stream. So Ethan, if you would drop a link to that, you guys can always check in on that in the Slack channel as well. Okay, let me make sure my music is killed here. There we go. All right, cool. Any updates from Marcel, Tim? Should we just start without him?
I say we should start without him. We'll find him at some point. He knows he's always welcome, right?
He does. He'll be jumping in here at any moment, I'm sure. I'm going to just bring up my agenda because we do show up at these live streams with an agenda. So this is not just purely a free form. Maybe we make it look that way, but we try to do a little preparation, don't we, Tim?
You know, Joel, today the conversation, but kind of reminding me of talking about Carrie and Darren's conversation yesterday. I think what we're gearing towards is the thought that things have changed, and really trying to build up those principles and ideas of what's going to take to get through this process. I'll say 2 weeks ago when we started the conversation, it felt like moment to moment. There was a lot of uncertainty of what this was going to mean. People were moving their offices to home. They were homeschooling their kids. There's a lot of things that were shifting on them. Now that we're 2 weeks into it, which, think about 2 weeks ago, it feels like a year ago, right? Now that we're 2 weeks into it, we get a better sense of what we're dealing with now at hand. I think there's a lot of perspective of people that know that they've doubled their workload, which is a crisis, believe it or not, because there's more work than they can handle, and how to deal with those issues. Companies that have lost a lot of workload, what that means for them, dealing with working through cash flow needs for them. So that those shifts have taken place, or at least given us a position to start working from. But I think what's aching us now is how do we actually survive this thing, right? And will things return to normal? Probably means more of what do these changes mean for my business?
Yeah, I was going to share a story because there was this moment that happened earlier today where I was in my Confab weekly forum. It's a conversation I have with a couple dozen owners from around the world that have all been through Jumpstart with me. And I was talking with one of the members, Caleb Cohart, and I think Caleb is here with us today. So I'll, when you're available, Caleb, raise your hand. I'm going to see if I can drag you into this thing. But the conversation was really a check-in where I was asking each owner there that runs a studio, that runs a production company, how are you doing? But more importantly, what are you doing to adapt and to move forward that would be valuable, a contribution to your peers? Like what's working, right, as you navigate this. And when I was asking Caleb, it was interesting how he told me a brief, call it recap, of how much his business had evolved since last year and the changes, and how there were some silver linings that were starting to emerge in the changes that he made. And then it occurred to me, wait, is this all in the last 3 weeks? And he said, yeah, we've done all this in the past 3 weeks. And I think just that story of, well, we were trying to figure things out last year. Things were going in a great direction. I was building, I had years of planning. I was getting ready to hire this person. We were getting ready to sign a lease on this space or buy a building, and, going in all these investments and all this energy, and then everything changed.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that as an owner? Because I'll say this, I have heard from a lot of owners, and I saw it today, that some owners are still in that, I'm just pissed. Like I had so many plans. I had so many things that I was working on. I had so many cool deals or new clients or things that were about to happen, or going to hire that creative director I always wanted, whatever. And then when boom, this happened, I'm like, I'm just mad and I don't know how to get over it because I have so much heart and soul invested in this. And that was my question to Caleb. Hang on, let me see if I can bring him
He's
in.
on. Hey,
Guys,
Caleb.
are you
Hey,
there?
how's it going?
Good.
Hey, Mr. Caleb. Dude, thank you so much for letting me drag you into this conversation today. You're in Denver today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, welcome to the live stream. Caleb, tell everybody just what your name is and what your company is, what you guys, what you focus on.
Yeah, well, my name is Caleb Cohart, and I own Studio C3, and we're a live action production company. We focus more on story-driven content, documentary style, corporate videos, content like that. You know, we serve a lot of nonprofits, which took a huge hit. We serve a lot of corporate clients.
So Caleb, I thought it was interesting, you know, to say the least this morning. You were pretty inspiring to me, and this is all, you know, kind of coming to my awareness in real time. But when we were talking this morning in confab with everyone there, I think you sensed it, right? That there's some owners that are like, yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around all the changes, but I'm kind of stuck. I'm kind of frustrated. I'm not really sure what to do next. And it's almost like they are still stuck in, I'm trying to figure out how to retain as much of normal or as much of the status quo as there used to be. And it's slipping through my fingers and I'm not really sure what to do. And as you told your story, if you don't mind, maybe just give us the 30-second recap of what changed for you in, you know, in the last 3 weeks, but where you were going last year and where you are now and how much things quickly changed in the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, for us, you know, we were coming into last year was really a growth year, and we saw a lot of change, but we were coming off of some of our, I'd say, many years of planning were finally starting to pay off. And we had, you know, probably over half of our yearly budget lined up to do over the next 3 months. I was getting ready to, I had made a job offer to a brand new full-time producer. We had hit a point where we were actually going to buy our own office space. We were tired of paying rent and just watching that money walk out the door to somebody else every month.
Of course.
So we toured it. We were getting ready to actually put in the offer. So I made this job offer to a producer on a Monday, met with my realtor, and we wrote up the contract on a Monday. And by Wednesday, we had lost over $250,000 in projects. I'd rescinded the job offer, and I was curious to see if we were even going to survive the next 2 weeks, because we went from probably our entire year taken care of to wrapping up one final project.
Oof.
Right. Wow.
And what was that moment like, Caleb? I mean, that moment when it hit you in the face, were you in panic? Did you feel like your world was kind of crushing in on you? Did you feel like a big sense of loss?
I think I didn't feel so much loss. I mean, I've been doing this I started as a freelancer with Studio C3 in 2004. So I've been out on my own for a long time, and I've been through 2008. I've been through several down periods. So I was kind of used to that. I think one thing that really helped me, though, is I'm very involved in the acting community in Denver, and I saw a lot of my friends go like completely unemployed. So I had a nice sense of perspective that at the end of the day, yes, I couldn't buy my office building, but I had that down payment saved up, so I could at least get through the next 6 months on my own. Like I was still going to have a roof over my head and some employment prospects. So I was very disappointed, and I was pretty depressed. And but I think, yeah, there was just an eerie sense of calm, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm wondering if that served you well, because, you know, when you reached out to me on Slack, or we had a quick conversation maybe a few days ago, and you were talking about, well, we've had to sort of retool, or I can't remember how you phrased it, but revisit our business model. And you described about shifting from live action to more post-production and motion design type of work.
Yeah.
And as you told that story, I thought to myself, okay, they've been doing this for months, so this isn't the craziest thing ever. But then today in the live group, you said, no, this all happened in the past 3 weeks. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. So are you telling me there's actually a silver lining to all this? And to which you said, yes, but I would love to hear you sort of describe that in your own words.
Yeah, well, going from 60 to 0 in a matter of days kind of forced us into reaction mode. And what I started to realize is a lot of my clients, because they're all nonprofits for the most part, and we had to dropped all of their fundraising resources, and they were starting to panic. So we had this great ability to actually become helpers for them and figure out how can we solve their problems. Luckily, when I was a freelancer, I spent probably 7 years as a motion graphic designer before we started transitioning away from that towards live action. And though we've been a live action production company for the last 4 or 5 years, we still had a post-production side. And I was able to dust off my After Effects chops, and we were able to work with some of our clients, use existing assets, and get creative and shift a lot of their work over to more animation or motion design projects so that we could still get content produced for them. A few of our other clients, like one of my clients is a charter school network here in Denver. And, they're in the midst of shifting 100% to online. And they serve at-risk communities. Over the last week, they've been able to get every single one of their students either an iPad or a Chromebook and get all of their family's internet access so they can continue education. So now we're working with them to be like, well, how do we get content out there to let your families or other families struggling with education needs to know about your brand awareness? And so, the reality is I can't take a camera, I can't go out and I can't film, but I created like a best practices guide for them to be able to give them some tips and tricks to use their phones to get content that it's not ideal, but it's something, and we can get content out in the world to help them. Helps us on the back end too, because we're getting a little bit better quality film from them. So our biggest transition was why we basically shifted so quick was I started to realize that we had a really great opportunity to reinvent ourselves because we are small, we are nimble. And if we could become that problem solver for our clients, then that could set us up to not only help people right now, but let us be stronger out of this.
Yeah. Well, if I was going to share, if you don't mind, like I had these 3 takeaways from what you shared earlier and what you're sharing now, just to put it into like a bite-sized nugget here for folks. Because one thing I heard you saying earlier was, one, you immediately dealt with this idea called, okay, things won't be going back to normal. There might be some new normal, but it's not going to be the old way. Number 2, you talked about focus on problem solving. And I know we all kind of use that term, we throw it around. But you definitely displayed an open-mindedness of, we're not just going to take the things we've always done and apply them to the new problem. We're going to take our resources and find new ways of solving those problems. And then number 3, you said this, proactively helping our clients. Like we're just reaching out and saying, hey, how are you? And then trying to find new ways to actually help them with their new problems. So I thought that was really cool. But let me bring Tim into this, because Tim, I'm really curious to hear from you. What are you hearing?
Well, to me, Caleb, good job, by the way. I know that as a business owner, it's kind of tough to kind of process and kind of get out of your own head of what it means to you and start working through things for other people. So I think that's a really great coping mechanism when kind of in any crisis, right? We're all dealing with this one together, but a lot of crises we deal with, it's good to just kind of walk through the fundamentals and know where things go, where things should go. A lot of what you're saying reminds me of the Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, please read it. If you need a quick version, get the children's book version. It's the same story in 7 pages. But one of the first things he talks about there really is taking action, like moving forward in a new direction. And that's the first thing you do to overcome fear. Like start realizing that things have changed, the cheese moved, and those first items that to go towards the new cheese is kind of what's going to get you beyond those fears. It sounds like you kind of grabbed a hold of that really well and started that process of realizing the cheese was moved and started pivoting with your clients. That's great. You know, the other thing I've kind of heard, Joel, is, and I've been warning people for the last 2 years, is that many business owners over the last few years have been having their best year ever. We sit in a unique position because we get to listen to multiple business owners. We're not inside of our own echo chamber. And when I start seeing a pattern like that, I realize, listen, if everyone's going up, then it's not specifically like you're on a roll and that your company, it's that company's moment, but there's something happening in the economy that's lifting all the ships up within the tide. I think inside the company, though, people that could get stuck are the ones that believe, oh, I'm really good this year. I've had a really good 2 years because I finally made it. Like I deserve it for all my hard work. And those companies, then those owners that everything just shifted on them, they're going to feel the loss even more because they're going to think that they've earned something, which really was an economic lift. And now they're going to think they've lost something, which really is an economic dive. In reality, what we've been trying to tell people is like, no, you're always been you, right? Yeah. You've been able to capture the moment in the market. And now that same person, those same achievements, those same abilities still exist today with the market downturn. And be able to recognize who you are in this moment.
Yeah, there's a belief that I've seen because I've worked with people like this, and it's tough. It's an ego-driven belief system that some owners have, and it's this idea of, well, I deserve it, right? Like I'm almost entitled to this success and all this winning because I deserve it. And I find that belief doesn't serve you well, especially when you go through a crisis or a downturn or something like this, because you don't know what to go back to. And Caleb, I'm just kind of curious from your standpoint, what do you have an inner belief about, like, why is it that clients even come to you in the first place? Why do you even have a business that has enjoyed any amount of success? Like, what's at the core of it?
I think that's a tough question.
Yeah, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of looking for is it, I know I can tell that you're not someone who believes that you deserve it, that there's something that you're doing on a daily basis and showing up and contributing or creating value, whatever. And that's the reason that clients trust you and keep coming back to you, even when you go through a crazy time like this.
Yeah, I think it is those relationships with a lot of our clients that we've built up. I mean, I think it pays off. One of the reasons I feel so great right now is one of my longest clients. So we've had the company now 16 years. My longest client I've had 17 years. So even when I used to work at another production company, I was freelancing for this one client. And when this went down and they pulled 200,000 in projects from us, just them. And they reached back out about a day or two later and we had a great conversation. And my own client was like, look, how can we convert this? How can we use your skill sets that maybe we haven't used in a while? How can we come up with something for you? And that kind of got the ball rolling to where the two of us working together, like he was looking out for me as a production company. I'm just a vendor of theirs, but they were looking out for me because we built this relationship. And because of that, we got into this really great spirited brainstorming session where all of a sudden we were able to recapture, quite a bit of work from them to keep us going through this time. And when I step back and I think about what we can put out into the world as content creators, maybe it's the fact that I work with so many nonprofits and education groups. And we went through a really big shift last year, which I think has helped us a lot. Like I had hit a point where I had so many employees and we had such overhead that we had to take on every single project. And we felt like we'd sold our souls. It just wasn't fun. And, we had one of our employees leave us last year to move on to greener pastures. And we had to move on from another one of our employees. And we lowered some of our overhead by paying off some of our debt. And we found ourselves in a position where we could really take stock of why we do what we do. And in that, we really leaned into defining our mission a little bit more and choosing the type of clients we want to work with, understanding, I still got to keep the lights on. I still have to pay rent and I still have to pay employees. But if we could come at it from a little bit more of an altruistic motivation, And, you know, some of it was even like with all of our discussions in confab, like not taking on those smaller projects just to make payroll, because they actually steal time from us. But we kind of reinvented ourselves. And I think that that's put us in a better place now, because I feel like we have a better mission behind us. I don't feel like I'm just going out there making content for stuff I don't believe in. So now that I believe in it, I believe in helping my clients believe in helping me.
So let me ask this.
A big help.
Yeah, let me ask this question. And I'm going to be a bit of a contrarian here. So if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. But I would love for you to unpack the word relationships a little bit, because I hear that and I think I know what you mean. But here's something else. I'll give you a contrary point of view. I know a lot of owners that will say, oh yeah, my clients work with me because it's all about the relationship. And my challenge would be, so is it because you're just a nice guy or a nice girl? Like you're friendly, so therefore you expect work to come to you? And I think what I really hear when I hear people talk about relationships is you're in a relationship where there's a high degree of trust, which is a different kind of relationship. And I would also say that there is an expertise that you are willing to put at risk on behalf of your client. So like in your case, you said, hey, nonprofit, I like you. We have similar values. I believe what you believe, but I have this awesome expertise that can help you. And I'm willing to put it at risk to invest in you in order to potentially see a return as we collaborate together. Does that resonate with you? Or are you like, no, it's just because I'm a friendly guy and we get together and drink beers. That's why all the work comes to me.
No, I think you're correct on that. I think, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, I have to provide them with a service that's going to help them. And I'm not delusional in any way. I know that if somebody else comes in and can do it better and cheaper and is an even more nice guy, I'm not going to keep that work. Like I can't put all my eggs in that one client basket. But yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where it comes down to trust and I don't know, just service and delivery. Like we've grown to that point where they do trust that I am the expert in giving them what they need to serve their purpose.
Yeah, and this is where I think often creative entrepreneurs, they undersell themselves when it comes to their expertise, because I think what you have to offer and what everyone here has to offer is actually awesome and amazing and valuable to those clients. Tim, earlier today, when you and I were preparing, I was talking about the idea that the golden rule, I'm a big believer in the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. That's good business. However, that's not enough. And then I quipped that there's this thing called the platinum rule. And that is you have to show up and produce incredible value, share your expertise, like do something different. It's not just because I'm a nice person and I treat you nicely that the work shows up.
Yeah, to me, like you have to get down to the core beliefs you have as a person and the core beliefs you have within your company and be able to depend on that. If you think you do as a business is provide a service, then you're always waiting for clients to call you. And then your expectation is, oh, sure, I can execute it, but you give me the direction, you create the ideas. If you start moving into more strategic conversation or a better relationship, a value-based relationship, as you would say, the platinum rule, then the engagements get a change with it. So another part of that who moved my cheese idea is like, when you change what you believe, you change what you do. And a lot of what we do at RevThink is kind of get people to think differently about who they are, change the core beliefs of what that business means to them, and to get them away from just being a basic service business that hurries up and waits when a client gives them a call, and really start gaining control of your own life, your own business. You know, that saying we say, the best way to deal with the future is to create it. We don't just throw it out there as a cute way of saying it. Like, we honestly believe that you have the ability and control to make decisions and determine where you're going to go. This is a moment where the world has changed on us, but we still use the same mechanisms. Still kind of think through the process, know what you do, provide that value, and begin opening up new relationships or rely on old relationships to keep that conversation moving forward and work with your client those ways.
Yeah, Caleb, I know we're going to be out of time here in just a minute, so I want to say a hearty thank you for coming on and not only sharing your story, but putting some things out there pretty candidly for everyone else that might benefit. There might be some competitors here that you're giving some knowledge to. So I appreciate your generous.
Hey man, there's enough work for everybody. We're good to go.
I love it.
That's great. Well, I'm going to Tim. I'm going to let you sort of sum it up. What takeaway do you want everyone here to walk away with that they can actually put into practice?
Yeah, thanks. Some of what we're up against right now is this unknown or uncertainty, and I feel like a lot of people conversations I'm having are people looking at their cash flow every hour, hoping something has changed, or looking at their sales pipeline, wishing something would just show up, and they really haven't taken any action to do anything within their cash flow or sales pipeline to make any new decisions or have a new conversation. So a lot of the conversation you and I are having now, Joel, are really just to sit down with people, kind of be a therapist, open things up, let them know here are the basics we're going to go for, and let's start looking at the future in a certain way. I was late to jump on this call because I was running through cash flow with someone, and we could see it, the big gap that's sitting out there 8 weeks, 10 weeks from now. It's obvious, and that's not unusual for them. There's usually a 10-week. If you look 10 or 12 weeks out, there's usually a lack of AR coming in, and we know sales, that we're landing in the next 2 or 3 weeks will fill in that 12 or 15-week gap. Today, we don't know that. We don't know for certain that we will have those sales in the next 4 to 5 or 6 weeks. So really trying to solve a long-term problem, we have to be thinking through what's different. And then just then we remove the cash flow and just start asking questions. Who are these clients? What do you do? What services do you provide? What conversations have you had? And they kind of found really a library of old work that they've done with clients. And we can ask the question, well, now that you've had this library of old work and it's, post-COVID, is there a new strategy to roll out these tutorials? Or if people are working online, is there something you would say differently than if they're watching a television commercial? And then reach out to those clients, you have working relationships, like we've been talking about, and begin a new conversation.
Well, I'll just add this. You remember we did a cash flow call with someone a couple of days ago, and you were saying, you see how you just need a $10,000 thing here, job, and then you need a $15,000 or a $20,000 job there. Other than that, you don't have any big decisions you have to make for the next 8 weeks. And the owner was like, oh, but I had all this, question marks and uncertainty, and now it's right there. And what's cool is I just today, in 2 calls that I was doing, had 2 clients who said, I went back to my sales pipeline. I'm working with my top 20 list, and I started doing this, just how you doing? And one of these clients got a job from Sony today. The other one just landed a big job with a major university. And there was this moment of, hey, these fundamentals work.
Yeah.
So you just kind of go back to what you've always known is true. You've always been a creative entrepreneur. You've always had everything you need. This is just a new season to wake up and say, okay, things are changing. I have these resources. These are now the needs. Let's bring them together.
And how do we get people to start asking the question of, instead of being afraid that something has changed, how do we get them into the mindset that we actually want the change? Like this change, this disruption is the disruption we've been waiting for. And when you partake in it, like you're starting from a brand new 0 point and you can start building on top of it. That's a unique opportunity that, quite honestly, probably the only time we'll see it in the next 10 or 15 years, hopefully, maybe even longer. But these are the career making moments. So shifting through what used to be true and what could be true, this is the moment we get to kind of steal that and turn it into opportunity for us. It's going to be difficult, and there's going to have to ask some kind of inventory questions of who you are, what you're about, what you do. But on the other side of it, it's a total win. And we want to set people up for that win.
What we could do is we could just take a look back at the 2008 collapse. We could look at the 01.com bubble and look at what status quo was before and then how things changed afterwards.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of the transition to the desktop revolution, right? Like that seemed really terrifying at the time if you were invested in flames and smokes and all these Silicon Graphics workstations, but look at where it went. The disruption was amazing, and it created so much opportunity for everyone. So in some sense, I don't want to get too rosy quite yet, but I know the opportunities are going to come back, and it's going to be a new era in different ways that'll be great.
Yeah, right. I mean, 2001, I was at Imaginary Forces, and we were going from analog to digital in that process. So that disruption created a brand new kind of field. I felt like that field has actually gave birth to many of the production companies that that we know of today. That early 2000 boom that happened was crazy. 2008 kind of moved those groups on, right? And a new kind of interesting perspective came into play. Even RevThink was kind of came through 2008 and was able to recognize and look through that. So going through many of these cycles, we know that what the cycle feels like, and we have a perspective. What we want now is to, like, again, I recommend Who Moved My Cheese. Get yourself in the right mindset to know it did move. Stop guessing. Yes, things have changed. So it moved. How do we deal with it? So start making decisions. Start recognizing opportunities. Stop looking backwards and move yourself forward, and then start taking action, because action will get you through those questions and that fear.
Yeah, it's not where did the cheese disappear? Why did it go away? It's like, where did it move? Where did it go? Where is it going? That's always the question we want to be asking. By the way, in order to wrap up, we're at the 33-minute mark here. So Tim, we should close it up. I was just going to mention Blair Enns, my friend, published a really cool article today. Can you post that link to that, Ethan? It's this article he calls, I'm going to find it, Play the Game of Constraints. It's a thought exercise article to stimulate your thinking about, put some constraints on your brain, and then see how your creative mind starts to go to work to think of new ways that you might move forward. So I invite you to check that out. And then Tim, do you want to make
something in the box, isn't there, Joel?
Yes. You want to make a quick mention again of Chris Sloan's charity?
Yeah, again, I think today is Wednesday, so a couple more days. If you've heard this before, but Chris Sloan, good friend of ours, has a foundation called the Awesome Foundation, and he's doing a match for every donation you give to a nonprofit. He'll match up to $250 of it. I'm encouraging people to do this because it starts getting you thinking about other people than yourself. And so much of us are in that scarcity mentality that this is all the cash we'll ever have, and where will new money come from? I think the minute you start giving money away, you start recognizing that there's still abundance in the world. I want to encourage people to start thinking that way. So it's a great way to kind of break out of that thinking, that mold. And Chris is coming alongside in an awesome way with his awesome foundation to do that.
Very cool. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you and all you've been in the industry, and all the great work that he's done with T2C and his team over the years.
Yeah, we love him.
Well, Tim, thanks for being here today. Everyone else that was here, thank you. It was great to see, good turnout. And sorry we didn't have time for questions, any Q&A or comments today. So we'll make sure we have time for that tomorrow. And a huge thank you to Caleb for joining us and sharing his story. Please give Caleb your thanks, or give him a shout out here in the chat. And Tim, other than that, I think we're done here for today.
Yeah, that's great. You guys keep up the good work, and feel free to reach out to us. Blessings to you all.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.